best motivators in solar is they gamify things. If you're running a door-to-door team, you know that sometimes as you're getting out of the winter slums, it's still dark early. It can be tough to keep your team motivated year-round. So I'm going to tell you about a challenge week we recently completed as a team that boosted our numbers and got some great results. Welcome to the podcast. My name's Taylor Armstrong. We're here to help you close more deals, generate more leads and referrals, and have a much better time in the solar industry. We are getting close to daylight savings time and about to gain an extra hour. So unless you're one of those lucky states or I'm not even sure, do other countries have daylight savings time? Not sure. Let me know in the comments. But if you're one of those lucky people that do not have daylight savings time, I envy you because it is always so frustrating as someone that's selling, that's out in neighborhoods, to lose that extra hour of daylight. And maybe it's to make our team tougher, right? Knocking in the dark. But I much prefer to have that extra hour from 6 to 7 o'clock still in the daylight, catch some extra people home. So I hope you are getting ready for that. Hope you're having lots of success. And today's podcast, I just wanted to talk about a challenge week we wrapped up with. And before I get into the details, let me share with you some of the results we had just from doing this challenge week. So we wrapped it up. We just did a 7-day challenge week. And that week we had a 65% increase in doors knocked. We had a 43% increase in appointments set for our team of over 100 people here in San Diego. And if you do the math, some pretty big numbers. And granted, we are in, February. It's still one of our historically a little bit slower months, although we are starting to ramp up. But yeah, we had a big increase from that week compared to any other week we'd had in 2025 to this date. So if you are losing momentum a little bit, or if your team hasn't quite reached their full potential, I'm going to share with you what we did for this challenge week. So the way we modeled our challenge week is we really tried to make it, you think back to your high school days, anyone that played any sport in high school, you typically have a week. They usually call it Hell Week, where you're just going, extreme effort. You're practicing, it's like 2-a-days for football. You're doing way more than you regularly do. That's how we tried to model it for solar. We call it challenge week because, most of us are Christian. We like to not think about hell. But whatever you want to call it, you can call it Hell Week. Really, it's just a week blitz. And our teams were primarily year-round teams. So we're not doing like the whole blitz schedule, obviously, for an entire year. So it's good to mix in whether you're doing an out-of-market blitz or whether you're doing a challenge week like this. This is something where especially if you do have mostly year-round reps, and maybe not all your reps are blitzing, maybe a lot of them are just staying in market, have families, like a lot of us do out down here. I think this is a good thing to do to kind of like model that same blitz feel, but you don't have to go out of town for it, and you still can get a huge increase in production. So especially for teams like that, I want you to take note, and especially for the managers listening, if you're not managing a team, if you're not over anybody else, then go to your leaders. Maybe you suggest that you do something like this, or you run it yourself, a little personal one. Okay, but the way we did this is we just made it, there were, I think, 10 different knocking sessions, right? So Monday through Saturday, we had a morning and an afternoon session of knocking on every single day, or being in appointments if you're closing deals. So the sessions went as follows. It was from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then there was an hour break. And then the second session was 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So 2 4-hour sessions. And what's really funny about this is when they first introduced it, they're like, yeah, guys, we're going to have you knock like a full-time job just for a week. Or 1 week, we're going to treat this like a full-time job. And if you think about it, it's kind of funny that, people that are knocking on doors, a lot of us in solar, we get complacent. We make some big commissions and we take days off. We don't go hard. So, I got respect for people that can treat this like a full-time job and can go 8 hours a day knocking or being indoors. I mean, I close deals and I'll be out there, for probably 6 hours. But people that are knocking 8 hours a day, you got my respect. Because if you do that year round, that is a grind. Okay, but this is how we did it. We divided it into sessions. Tuesdays and Fridays, we have correlations for our teams at 10 a.m. So Tuesdays and Friday, we only had an afternoon session. Okay, but the goal was to win every single session that week. And the way you won them is we just needed to have people hit a minimum of 30 doors in the knocking session. Okay, which super easy to do. We made it easy so people would hit it. We wanted to get as many people winning the prize, and we gamified it. Right, and the best leaders, the best motivators in solar is they gamify things. Okay, if you can treat this job like a game, if you can make a game for yourself, even if you aren't doing something like this with your team, I would suggest doing something like this for yourself. I listen to a lot of Ed Milet. Great podcast. Go listen to Ed Milet podcast if you haven't. But he talks about when he was in his selling days, he would gamify his sales. And at the end of his quarters, as long as he hit the metrics that he was shooting for, he would go out to like a Ritz-Carlton with his wife for 3 days or something, take like a mini vacation. And he talked about even though he didn't have money at the time, he still would use that as like his prize. And the other benefit was he was getting around other hyper successful people. Even though he didn't yet have the success himself, he was getting around those people and it was pushing him to do something great. So it kind of served as a double purpose. So the tangent is, even if you aren't doing something like this for your team, how can you gamify the process for yourself? Hey, maybe it's if you hit your sales metric, maybe you're buying the new MacBook, maybe you're doing a mini vacation like that. This is what the most successful reps do. Okay, but what we did for our challenge week is we did a Six Flags trip. So anyone that won the rounds, that worked the 2 rounds, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., and hit a minimum of 30 doors. We have an app that verifies that. They have to go change the status of the door in there. Anyone that did that, they won the challenge week and they get to go on the trip to Six Flags. Okay, and then we added another layer to it, and shout out to my guy Tyler Anderson. He's actually one of our regionals, and most of these were his ideas. So shout out to Tyler. Okay, not trying to steal Tyler's thunder here. But the second layer that was added to it was we did an all-out winner. Okay, so an all-out was just you had metrics attached on top of the door count. So what we did for that is anyone that hit, it was 270 doors knocked, 9 plus appointments booked with utility bill, and 3 cells or 3 assisted cells. That's from a setter. They got a pair of Nike Air Maxes. So that was the other layer. So yeah, we had 2 incentives going, and I would suggest doing something like that too. Okay, you don't want to you want a prize that everyone can win based off their input, and then you want a prize based off the people that are gonna, actually produce more. And yeah, just the morale we saw, people were pushing for this, and we had a massive increase just in buy-in. And the way we started the rounds is you take a selfie picture on the door. That's your clock and photo. So we had to do that at 10 a.m. or before 10 a.m. to win that round. And then for the second round, you had to take a clock out photo in the dark after 7 p.m., knock on our last door. And that's how you won the second round. So pretty simple metrics. And yeah, it was just an all out hustle. We created like slides for this and everything, career breakthrough, creating the best version of ourselves, celebrate like champions. Let me know. I can send you some of the slides that were created for this. So yeah, we saw great results, and I personally had, a lot of my team, we bought in, we went out as a team. We motivated each other. We held each other accountable. So again, if you are feeling like your team is in a little bit of a rut, consider doing a challenge week for your team. You can come out to Six Flags with us. You can go, I don't know, zip lining. Just plan a team activity, get people fired up, do something to kick off daylight savings time that's coming up. And that's how you're going to get your team cranking and ready to go for the summer when you really want them pushing hard. Okay, so I hope that gives you a cool, unique idea to try out with your team or try out for yourself. Give yourself some sort of incentive, motivation to push hard whenever you listen to the podcast. Hey, and wanted to preview next episode we have coming out is one of my friends, Nick Nesameno. This guy is definitely one of the influencers in solar right now. He's running a team in Utah, of all places. It's where I'm from. I thought solar was dead in Utah. Well, you thought wrong. Nick is leading his company, Sparta Solar, and they're just absolutely crushing it in Utah, which is not a great market for solar. Somehow these guys are making crazy money and just blowing up out there. And Nick, he's had, multiple $1 million years himself, has always been a top producer in the industry. So if you want to hear how he runs his team, how he makes 7 figures for himself, then make sure you tune in to the next episode. And don't forget, grab your SolarCon tickets. We got the link in the show notes, and they're going up on pricing. You got about a month left before we see you at SolarCon. So grab your tickets, keep crushing, try out a challenge week or a hell week with your team, and we'll see you on the next podcast.